Welcome to another ASA Abloy webinar. Today's webinar is going to be on Sargent's 8200 series mortise lock. We're going to be looking at some of the features and benefits. My name is Russell Corriveau and I will be your lead instructor today. This session should last about 45 minutes. During this session, your lines will be muted. However, you can submit questions using the question and answer icon as we go along, and I will save time at the end for your questions. Also, within 24 hours, you will receive an email from us as proof of your attendance for this webinar that can be submitted to your employer or one of the industry association partners, such as DHI or ALOA. Also, within 24 hours, this webinar will be available on ASA Abloy Academy website for reviewing if you need to review it again. And keep in mind, ASA Abloy Academy has over 50 online classes that are all available at no charge. To get started, simply sign up for the university or the academy and start taking classes at your own pace. So, for the reason we're here today, we're looking at Sargent's 8200 series mortise locks. If you're not aware of it, when it comes to mortise locks, there's actually two gradings. There's operational grade and there's security grade. Sargent's mortise locks are operational grade 1, and they are also security grade 1. And a lot of mortise locks are not security grade 1. But Sargent's is security grade 1 and operational grade 1. We actually test our locks to a much higher standard, which is detention level standards. And I'll actually go over this. I'll show you what detention level standards are in a little bit. But we do test them to a much higher standard. The Sargent 8200 series mortise locks have a 10-year mechanical warranty. Unfortunately, in today's society, behavioral health is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So I just wanted to show you quickly the behavioral health trim that Sargent is now offering with the 8200 series mortise lock. The first one I'm showing you is the BHL. This is our behavioral health lever. This has an overlapping lever and rosa construction. And this lever will rotate up and down 45 degrees when the outside lever is in the locked position. This would allow a rope to slide right off of it without any problem. So this is only available in stainless steel and is specified as BHL. One of our longest behavioral health products is our BHD. This is our behavioral health knob. This does not meet ADA. This is only available in stainless steel, and this is actually going to be sold with our 7800 series mortise lock. I did tell you that today's presentation was on the 8200 series mortise lock, but if you're not aware of it, the Sargent 8200 series mortise lock has a sister lock called the 7800. The 8200 is available with levers only. The 7800 is a knob lock. So anytime you order a knob, you'll be getting a 7800 series mortise lock opposed to an 82. The designs are basically the same and they have been tested to the same standards. So this is a BHD, and this would be supplied with a 7800 series mortise lock. The traditional paddle trim that we've had around for years, this has also always been sold as part of the 7800 series. So if you're ordering this paddle trim, it would be specified as a 7800 series by whatever function you wanted. Right out of the box, this paddle trim can be mounted down, up, or sideways, and is available in stainless steel, brass, or bronze. Sargent's latest push-pull trim is their ALP trim. This is only available in stainless steel. Once again, right out of the box, it can be mounted down, sideways, or up, and it is available with markers on it. So if you're looking for markers to identify whether it's a push or a pull, you can get that, and those markers would be designated with a P option. They actually did a really nice job with these markers. I was actually very impressed with them because here's a few more views of the markers on the paddles. First off, you can arrange it so whatever way you install it, it can match whatever you need to. Plus, there's embosses on the back of the markers that engage the trim, the paddle trim itself, so it doesn't move, it doesn't rotate, and it's actually below the surface of the stainless steel, so it will last a long time. You won't have any issues with this. They did a lot of work into this trim to make sure it was exceptional. This is not just our ALP trim, it's an award-winning trim. And when we talk about cycle testing, to be a grade 1 mortise lock, you have to be able to cycle at least 1 million times. We've actually cycle tested the ALP trim on the 8200 series mortise lock to more than 10.4 million cycles on the push side, and to more than 9.5 million cycles on the pull side. These numbers are incredible. I do videos for the company also. One day, one of the engineers wasn't having a great day. He said, "Grab your video camera, come with me." So we headed down to the test lab, and I pulled out my video camera and I started taping. Check out this lock, the LP, and he started hammering. As you can see, these hitches pretty hard. Even after a beating like this, it's still fully functional without any problems at all. Our very, very best behavioral health trim is our BHW. Once again, this is only available in stainless steel with 37 different functions, and it is available with electrified options, and this is specified as a BHW. The Thumbturn that you see here, when we first submitted this to the New York Board of Mental Health, they rejected it based on the Thumbturn. So we smartened up and we redesigned the Thumbturns like this to make sure that it would meet New York Board of Mental Health standards for highest risk environments. So we changed the Thumbturn so it would meet that. But then they put this additional note on here. It says, because the outside key does not override the Thumbturn, an alternative anti-barricade strategy may be warranted. And Sargents took this to heart because they actually created two new functions, which I'll show you in a second. First off, this is from last year's, and it does meet the highest standard, so it can be used in high-risk environments, and it does have the seal of the New York Board of Health. And to get rid of that note they had the year prior to that, Sargents developed two new mortise lock functions. It's the 57 and the 58 function. In red is the unique features on these locks. See, with this lock, say if you had a patient lock themselves in a room and they're holding the Thumbturn so a nurse or a doctor can't get in. With both of these locks, the key on the outside will override the the Thumbturn on the outside will retract the latch bolt even when the Thumbturn is held in the locked position. And the only difference between these two locks, 57 and 58, is what happens to the outside trim after someone goes through it, whether it stays locked or whether it unlocks. But both of these functions will allow the key to retract the latch bolt when the Thumbturn is held in the locked position, which is pretty impressive. Indicators are also becoming a bigger and bigger subject where people want their privacy and they want people walking in on them. So Sargent and ASSA ABLOY developed these new indicators. Let's take a look.
From ASSA ABLOY Group brands Corbin Russwin and Sargent. This new offering is compatible with the industry-leading Corbin Russwin ML2000 series and Sargent 8200 series mortise locks. The status indicator has a viewing window 25% larger than industry norms, which clearly shows whether the door is locked or unlocked, occupied or vacant, with text, color, and symbols. With a large window prominently placed for maximum visibility, the status indicator provides instant reassurance and security you can see. The indicator option accommodates many applications within commercial environments, including gender-neutral restrooms, private areas for nursing mothers, and quiet rooms for employee meditation and mindfulness. By informing users that the room is in use before they attempt to enter, the status indicator prevents interruption or awkwardness. Also ideal for classrooms, the status indicator allows for easy confirmation that the door is secured in emergency or lockdown situations. Optional engraving further reinforces which direction to turn the key or Thumbturn for locking. The patent-pending curved design allows visibility up to 180 degrees, confirming that the door is locked from any angle. Also, a reflective coating on the indicator window allows for visibility in low light conditions, providing peace of mind that the door is locked and secure. With retrofitting capabilities, you can easily upgrade any current Corbin Russwin or Sargent mortise lock to include the status indicator, minimizing installation time and labor costs. The upgrade utilizes the existing door prep, leaving no exposed holes, and a lock that is long-lasting and secure. The status indicator can also be customized to suit your needs. With custom engraving and a variety of colors, fonts, and icons for the indicator window, you can easily provide added security without limiting design. This new option from Corbin Russwin and Sargent offers a solution for a multitude of applications from classrooms to commercial spaces, giving you security at a glance. For more information on the status indicator, visit Corbin.
Okay. They did a nice job because they now offer as a full escutcheon, which I'm showing you here. So I'm showing you a few different views of the full escutcheon, or it can be used with sectional trim. So if you want to use it with sectional trim, you can. So you can use it with rose designs. And as I mentioned, it's available as a retrofit kit. And one nice thing with the retrofit kit, they gave you a plastic template. So if you're replacing an existing collar and you're putting this new trim onto it, this will tell you exactly where to mount the holes and where the holes are located, making it very simple. Keep in mind that Sargent always supplies the exact hand that you order. So anytime you order Sargent locks, you always have to specify the hand, and we will always supply the correct hand. This product is a handed product, and even though we will always supply it handed, if you ever change the hand, you need to change the hand in the field, it's so easy to do. All you need to do is, see this little black piece circled here? All you need to do is remove that. And then this metal piece here, you're going to pick it up and you're going to rotate it about 90 degrees. Once you've done that, it faces the other way. Put the black plastic piece back on, and that's all you have to do to rehand this. So if you ever happen to buy the wrong hand, they were very easy to rehand. What you have written on the indicator is going to be specified by an option code. So here we're looking at all the option codes for a single indicator. Okay, so single indicator. These first options are only for the outside of the door. And if you want an indicator only for the inside of the door, we have these options down here. So you can get it for just the inside or outside. Or if you prefer a double indicator, we're also offering that. Okay, but first off, if you're going to be ordering this as a complete product, once again, you're going to specify a V10 code, which is going to specify what you want written on it. And in this case here, they want to use the full escutcheon. So here they're going to specify VN1, and then the L lever is what they're specifying as the lever design. You can also get this as an escutcheon trim. When you're ordering it as an escutcheon trim, your option, like your example here, the V20 option is going to specify what you want written on it. But that's the only place that this indicator is going to be identified, because you still need to order the standard rose, such as an LN rose with an L lever, to be used with this. So the option code is going to set it up so you'll get the correct indicator that you're looking for. Keep in mind, we also have a complete set of double indicators. So if you want indicators on both sides of the door, and I think that's going to be the most common practice, you can get indicators for both sides of the door. And on top of that, you can get these with engraving. So in a classroom situation or in a situation they need to be able to lock down the room quickly, we can have it engraved on both the inside, outside, or both sides of the door, which way to rotate the key to lock it. And if you're looking for that feature there, it's going to be specified as an option again, such as EMA will be for the engraving on the outside of the door. And if you specify EMC, you'd get the engraving on both sides of the door. So the EMA for the first one is on a full escutcheon. The EMC is going to be used with a sectional design because it's going to be used with an LN rose. Sargent offers quite an extensive list of roses and lever handles. These are Sargent's Studio Collection levers. It's a very large selection of levers. These are available in brass, bronze, or stainless steel. So what Sargent has done is anytime you're using a Studio Collection lever, you need to use a certain group of roses or escutcheons with it. So all of these levers here, and this does include the Coastal series, can be used, any of those levers can be used with any of these roses, square roses, or escutcheons. What we're showing you here is we've actually developed some brand new thumb turns. So we have T1, which has a convex shape. We have T2, which is more of a rectangular shape, and T3, which is more of a cylinder shape. And these thumb turns will be supplied with a matching back plate to match whatever rows you design or whatever rows you ask for. So these are available for the Studio Collection levers and the Studio Collection and the Coastal Series. Here are the Coastal Series levers. In the Coastal Series levers, we only offer 4 levers: the Golf Point, the Rock Point, the Yarmouth, and the Sanibel. And with this here, you have the choice of either 2 roses and 2 escutcheons. Everything I was just showing you, that's only for the Studio Collection. I apologize for the confusion. Okay, next, our studio levers. Sargent standard studio standard levers can only be used with the standard roses and escutcheons. So with any of these standard levers, you can use any of our standard roses or escutcheons that we've had for some time. One unique thing with Sargent's mortise lock is that the spring cartridge, which is used to support the levers to make sure they never sag, is actually located inside of the lock body, which allows Sargent a lot of versatility, especially when it comes to the size of the roses. We can have very small roses, only 2 inches in diameter, only 5/16 of an inch thick. And because it's inside of the lock body, we can actually have our roseless trim. This does use a special lock body. It's the R8200 series lock body. And to get the roseless trim, it just uses a very small collar. That collar is going to be specified as an R. So in the example here, it's an R8237 with an R specifying the roseless trim with an MI lever is what they're looking for, right-hand door, 26D finish. One really nice thing about this roseless trim is that it is through-bolted through the door, so it's very, very secure. If you're ever looking for anti-vandal trim, we also offer a nice variety of anti-vandal trim. This is our anti-vandal trim, and this is specified as an option. And you're probably asking yourself, why is this an option? Because it's a trim. The reason it's an option because you still have to specify a lever and rose on the inside of the door so you can get out of the door. In this example here, we're specifying an LN rose with an L lever for the inside of the door, and the AV is specifying anti-vandal trim for the outside of the door. With Sargent cylinders, with Sargent mortise cylinders, there is a certain logic to their cylinder numbers. So a mortise cylinder is considered the 40 series. You have to think of 40 as equal to 1 inch. Okay, we don't have a cylinder that's a number 40. Our shortest cylinder is a 41. That second digit, such as the 1 in the 41, you have to place over 8, and that's how long the cylinder is. So a 41 is going to be 1 1/8. A 42, you take the 2, place it over 8, reduce it. It's 1 1/4. A 43 cylinder is 1 3/8. And these dimensions are taken from the very end of the tailpiece to underneath the cylinder collar, or underneath the cylinder head. A number 44 cylinder, take the 4, place it over 8, reduce it. It's 1 1/2 inches long. A 46, once again, 6 over 8, reduce it. It's 3/4 of an inch, so it's 1 3/4 inches. With Sargent's mortise locks, virtually all of them use the standard cylinder that you see there on the left-hand side. There are only 3 exceptions, and the 105 cylinder, which you see there in the middle, is used for the inside cylinder of a 16 and 92 function, and the other cylinder is only used for a hotel function, which is a completely different cylinder. But one nice thing with Sargent is the rest of our products use the standard cam. The reason I mention this is because a lot of manufacturers have different cams depending on the function of the lock they're going to be used with. With Sargent, we keep it very simple. So this is the main pack line for Sargent's in New Haven, and we're still making all our mortise locks in New Haven, Connecticut. With Sargent, we always try to keep the designs as simple as possible. We always believe there's no reason to overcomplicate it. Okay, like for example, to be a grade 1 mortise lock, the latch bolt has to extend out of the lock case 3/4 of an inch. With the Sargent mortise lock, when it extends out 3/4 of an inch, it extends into the lock 825 thousandths, which gives it a lot more engagement, especially when someone's trying to kick the door open. Also, the Sargent fronts are run the full length of the lock, and they're orbital riveted on, so they are allowed to move to compensate for the bevel of the door, but it's nice and rigid. It makes the whole lock body very rigid. They're a full 1/8 of an inch thick, and since they run the full length of the lock body, makes the whole lock body a lot more rigid. Even our cases are 110 thousandths, which is 10% thicker than most other manufacturers. And you're probably saying to yourself, what's 10%? The reason I'm bringing this up is because when you have a thicker lock case, it can withstand more pulling forces. So one of the BHMA tests is the security test, where they actually drill and tap a 1/4-28 hole in the face of the cylinder, and then they try to rip it out of the cylinder with 3,600 pounds of force. By having the lock case 10% thicker, it can withstand more pulling force to be a stronger lock. Sargent's deadbolts are investment cast stainless steel, and they're hardened. These things are solid. These things are impressive. Let's take a quick look at the locking components. So at the very top, you have the cylinder clamp. Moving around in a clockwise condition, in a clockwise direction, you have the cylinder hole. Next, you have the hub. The hub is where the Thumbturn or an emergency release would engage into. Next is the spindle hub. This is where the levers engage into, and we use a square engagement with this. Next, you have the locking slide. That's going to lock and unlock the outside lever. You have the dead latch. When the door is in the closed position, the dead latch is held in, and therefore you cannot push back on the latch bolt. Right above there, you have the latch bolt, and then the deadbolt. Sargent has made some really nice advances when it comes to our electromechanical mortise locks. First off, our electromechanical mortise locks have a 2-year electromechanical warranty. And the new technology that we've incorporated into this is ASSA ABLOY's EcoFlex technology. The gentleman who developed this, Scott, is going to tell us all about it. Take it away, Scott. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Lauder, and I'm a product manager at ASSA ABLOY in New Haven, Connecticut. And today I'm going to demonstrate for you the new EcoFlex mortise locks that have been developed and released by Sargent and Corbin Russwin. This kit will also be demonstrated. This kit has a variable DC power supply that goes from 0 to 30 volts. The kit has a previous generation traditional solenoid lock, and it also has the equivalent EcoFlex mortise lock. Looking at a traditional solenoid lock, there's many limitations, and those limitations are not only known, but they're accepted in the industry. Those limitations include the fact that they have to be ordered as 12 volt or 24 volt, fail-safe or fail-secure. If they're specified, ordered, manufactured, shipped, installed, or otherwise in the wrong configuration, the lock would have to be replaced. Additionally, traditional solenoids, this particular one is configured for fail-safe operation at 12 volts. They draw a significant amount of energy. So at 12 volts, this lock is consuming about 350 milliamps of energy continuous. That also causes solenoids to get warm and causes hot levers, but also that heat slowly degrades solenoids in their application. If I took this 12-volt solenoid and I installed it in the real world, where I have a battery backup or something else occurring in the system that causes the voltage to be raised, notice how it affects the current draw as well. Again, heating the solenoid more, utilizing more energy, and eventually breaking down that lock quicker. So we're going to introduce the new EcoFlex mortise lock, which is located over here. As I flip this switch, you'll notice that this lock returns to a fail-safe application, and this one, which is fail-safe, will lock when powered. But most importantly, take a look at the current draw difference between a traditional solenoid and the new EcoFlex at the exact same voltage. The EcoFlex lock is consuming just about 15 milliamps of energy versus over 350 milliamps for a traditional solenoid. So just within Sargent products, previous generation and new generation, we're looking at over a 96% energy improvement from the traditional design to the new EcoFlex design. As I mentioned, this design is currently configured for fail-safe operation, and it's operating at approximately 12 volts. If I turn the voltage up on an EcoFlex lock, though, it will run, and as you can see, consume the same amount of current, whether it's at 12 volts, 24 volts, or even beyond. Just about 30 volts now. The EcoFlex lock is designed to operate at any voltage from 12 to 24, but the real world is beyond that. So it will actually function from 10 to 30 volts. This improves the reliability of any installation, but also if the wrong voltage was specified, the EcoFlex lock can very quickly accommodate that. The next neat thing to show you is the fact that it's not only voltage insensitive, But the new EcoFlex lock also can be very quickly field configured between fail-safe and fail-secure operation, or vice versa. With the use of a pen, not a screwdriver, not voiding our UL or voiding our warranty, you could take a pen and you could change the configuration of this lock very quickly from fail-safe to fail-secure just by flipping a dip switch, which is located on the bottom surface of the lock. Cycling power one time, this lock has now changed its configuration from fail-safe to fail-secure. And as you see, if I apply power, it will unlock, and if I remove power, it will relock. So in quick summary, the EcoFlex lock is much more efficient than a traditional solenoid lock. As I said, approximately 96% more efficient. It also, though, gets rid of the issues associated with traditional solenoids, namely the fact that they must be ordered as fail-safe, fail-secure, 12-volt or 24-volt. Thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce the new EcoFlex mortise lock to you today.
Thanks, Scott. Just like in today's society, we've gotten away from incandescent light bulbs because they use so much electricity, and we've gone over to LED. It's the same thing with the EcoFlex mortise lock. A traditional solenoid uses about 6 watts of electricity. The EcoFlex mortise lock, the actuator, only uses 0.18 watts of electricity, which is nothing compared to the 6 watts. In a typical stairwell application where you had 5 doors, and oftentimes in stairwell applications, they don't want the patrons of the building or the business to use the stairs. They would rather have them use the elevators so they know where they're located. So oftentimes they'll keep these doors locked, which means they're going to be using fail-safe locks on these. And these things are going to be locked 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, until someone pulls the fire alarm. Because when someone pulls the fire alarm, they need to release to allow people to evacuate the building. With 5 typical solenoid operated locks in this one stairwell, it would use about 30 watts of electricity. If these 5 locks were replaced with EcoFlex mortise locks, it would go from 30 watts of electricity to less than 1 watt of electricity. Keep in mind, these locks are far more energy efficient when they're used as fail-safe opposed to fail-secure. Okay. Another nice feature with these locks is that they'll operate on less than half an amp, which means they can be used with PoE. PoE is power over Ethernet. It's another way of powering an item, such as cameras and locks, using Ethernet cables rather than power cables. And because it works at such a low amperage, it can be used with PoE locks, such as the IN220, which is Sargent's PoE locked. As Scott mentioned in the video, this thing is fully functional from 10 to 30 volts, so you can hook it up to a 12 or 24 volt power supply right out of the box. Securitron, one of our sister companies, developed this special power supply. It's called the EcoPower, and this thing's the size of a 4x4 gang box. This was designed to be used with the EcoFlex mortise locks along with other products. This thing, the nice thing about this basically has a small lead acid battery in it. And because the EcoFlex mortise lock is so energy efficient, you're actually powering it off the small lead acid battery. Once the battery drains to a certain point, this thing will turn on, charging up the battery, and then it turns off. So it doesn't use up any electricity except when it's charging up the battery, which is pretty unique. So if you think about it, a typical power supply uses about 6 watts of electricity. A typical solenoid uses about 6 watts of electricity for a total of 12 watts of electricity. If you use the EcoPower with the EcoFlex mortise lock, it's going to drop it from 12 watts down to 0.2085 watts of electricity. So you can see how energy efficient it is. These locks are fully backwards compatible. So if you have any existing Sargent facilities, you can always change out the lock bodies because the wires are all in the same location. We did not change them. Also, what we're showing you here is, I told you, it's field selectable between fail-safe and fail-secure. Right at the end of the harness here, there's a couple little switches, and by adjusting these switches, you can change it from fail-safe to fail-secure. So right now, this lock is in a fail-secure position. Notice the little switch is pointed to the right. When it's moved to the left, as it's done here, now it's a fail-safe lock. So it's very easy to change it from fail-safe to fail-secure. Keep in mind, Sargent will always supply exactly what you're ordering. We're not trying to give you more work. We just want to give you options in case you order the wrong thing. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the features with the mortise lock. So first off, we actually put a circuit board on the cap of the mortise lock. Over here on the lower left-hand side is the actuator and the request exit switches. And we're putting in two sets of request exit switches. And we're monitoring a lot more features than we ever have before. Up at the top here, we're monitoring the deadbolt. Here we're going to be monitoring the guard bolt. This switch monitors the latch bolt. This switch monitors the auxiliary bolt. And this one actually monitors the actuator itself. So not only are we telling it to lock and unlock, we actually have a switch telling us that it's locked and unlocked. And if you're not familiar with these types of switches, these are pretty unique switches. These are called the reed switches, and these have been used for many years now. This is what you find in a standard door position switch, but we've actually put them inside of the mortise lock because they're nice and small, and because there are since the contact points are completely enclosed, it's not affected by dirt, dust, or moisture, so it has a much, much higher cycle life than a standard micro switch. You're still going to be buying this lock from Sargent as a fail-safe, as an 8270, or as a fail-secure, as an 8271. You can also get this with a request exit switch, which is specified as RX. What I want to show you here is if you get it with a request exit switch, there's going to be 8 wires coming out of here. Okay, at the very bottom, the black and the red are for power. The 3 center ones, the orange, the green, and the white, those are going to be for the case side switch. And the cap side switch is going to be the yellow, the brown, and the blue. So it gives you the choice of monitoring both the inside and outside lever, or just one or the other. As I'm sure you realize, request exit usually monitors the inside lever only, but with Sargent, we give you the option of monitoring both. But let's say you order latch bolt monitoring with a request exit switch. Latch bolt monitoring is specified as an LX. And now we have more than 8 wires coming out of the mortise lock. So what they do here is you'll have the 8-pin normal Molex connectors, but then we'll also have a 4-pin connector, which is going to be for the latch bolt monitoring. So you can truly monitor the latch bolt and both the inside and outside request exit switches and power the solenoid. One of the newest locks that we've developed is our NAC locks. When we first developed this lock, it was sold as part of an access control systems. And we found that a lot of customers wanted to buy this lock body, but not as part of an access control system. They want to hook it up to their own system. So we decided to offer these as an NAC lock. So it's anytime you see NAC in the beginning, that means you're specifying an NAC lock. Okay, NAC locks are fully loaded locks with all the switches and the actuator built right into them. And right here, I'm showing you the function numbers. And here, through the function numbers, you're going to be specifying fail-safe or fail-secure, whether you want cylinder override or not, and whether you want deadbolt or not. And that's how you're going to select which function you want. But these are called NAC locks, and they're going to be incorporated into an access control system, or they can be used as a standalone lock. The whole idea with the EcoFlex mortise lock is that the harness on the far on the far left-hand side, I'm showing you this harness. This gets plugged into the back of the mortise lock. And based on the technology that you're going to be using with the mortise lock, the harness is what's going to change. So with a SEPA 2 or a C2, this would be the harness that you would use. If you were using a KP lock, this would be the harness that you would use. So the harness is going to change, but the lock body will remain the same. If you were using a Harmony lock, then this would be the harness you would have. And if you were using an SELP10, then this would be the harness you would use. So the harness changes based on the technology. Our standard harness is going to be black, like I'm showing you here. So if you see a black, that is our standard harness. Next, we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to talk about security within an access control system. Okay, in a standard access control system, the system has unsupervised lines, which means the lines are not supervised. So what we're showing you here right now is that the panel is putting out a current. It's running through wires, through a door position switch back to the panel. And because it's making a complete circuit, it's telling you, hey, the door is in the closed position. When someone opens up the door position switch breaks the contact. Now the meter is going to tell us, hey, the door is in the open position because it's not a complete circuit. The problem with this setup here is if something gets short-circuited, whereas wires touch each other, now it appears that my door is in the closed position because it's a complete circuit, but I actually have no idea of the status of the door. And that's the problem here. So what normally happens is integrators will add end-of-line resistors above the ceiling to eliminate this problem of unsupervised lines. What ASSA ABLOY and Sargent decided to do is take these end-of-line resistors and put them right into the harness that plugs into the back of the lock body. So these harnesses plugged into the back of the lock body will hold the end-of-line resistors. And anytime you see a blue harness like you see here in this picture, that means it has end-of-line resistors. So let's take a look at how end-of-line resistors work. So with an access control system with supervised lines, it's far more secure. Okay, and this is accomplished by adding a couple resistors into the circuitry to monitor the voltage. Because with supervised lines, the voltage is monitored, not whether it's an open or closed contact. Okay, so in our first example here, when the door is closed, the circuit is completed through the 2R resistor. Electricity is always going to take the path of least resistance to complete the circuit. And the panel is putting out 5 volts, and the circuit is being completed through the 2R resistor. And 5 volts going through the 2R resistor is going to be basically 3 volts, and it's going to tell you, hey, your door's in the closed position. Okay? When the door is open, when the door is open, the circuit can only be completed through the 3R resistor. So when you have 5 volts going through a 3R resistor, it's going to give us a different reading, and it's going to tell us, hey, your door is in the open position. Okay, so depending on which resistor the current is completed through will tell you whether it's open or closed. So if it happens to get short-circuited, then the panel will get 5 volts back immediately, and you know you have a problem that has to be investigated. And the other occurrence that can happen is that the wires can get cut. And if they get cut, once again, you get no current back, so you know you have a problem right away. So you're getting 0 volts. So you're always looking for a combination of voltage and amperage to tell you have that the door is secure. Because once the wires are cut or they're short-circuited, you immediately know you have a problem. So what ASSA ABLOY and Sargent did was take the end-of-line resistors from above the ceiling and move them right into the back of the mortise lock. Sargent and ASSA ABLOY are working with more and more companies developing end-of-line resistors, because keep in mind, Sargent makes our locks to work with other people's access control systems. Okay, so we're altering our locks so it will work with different access control systems. So if you're using a Mercury or a Linnell system, you would specify RO1 to get the resistors used with that system. If you're using Software House, it would be RO3. And if you're using AMAG, it would be RO4. End-of-line resistors are available with Wiegand-based product, SELP10, the Harmony, and the NIC locks. Okay, and that's how you'd specify it, as an RO1 or an RO3 or an RO4, depending on which ones you wanted. Another very unique feature that Sargent developed recently is the privacy deadbolt function. Basically, with this one here is that the access control system is turned off when the deadbolt is projected. So a great example on where this would be used would be a single stall teacher's bathroom in a school. So a teacher would walk up to the bathroom, submit a card or punch in a code, allows themselves into the restroom. Once the deadbolt is thrown, it will prevent any other teacher from walking into the bathroom by mistake, because their card or code will no longer work because the deadbolt is extended. Once the deadbolt is retracted, now it's fully functional, and anybody's card or key or code will, with the correct credential, will allow entrance into it. So this is great for personal privacy areas, call room doctors, restrooms, and shower areas. As I said, Sargent's made some nice advances with their electromechanical locks. We've actually incorporated a door position switch into the front of the lock body. So right up here towards the top of the lock, you see we actually put a door position switch there. And on the back side of the strike that faces the wall, we put a magnet on each side. Therefore, the strike is non-handed, and therefore can be used with either hand. So when the door is in the closed position, Sargent will now monitor the door position switch, the latch bolt, and the guard bolt. First off, the door position switch will make sure the door is closed. The latch bolt position switch will make sure the latch bolt is extended, and the guard bolt will tell you that the door is in the closed position because it's pushed in. So you need to have a complete circuit there. So these are measured in series. So when you have a complete circuit, you know the door is secure. So back to our mechanical locks. In 2004, Sargent's developed the first mechanical multi-function lock body. We were able to get 8 different functions into one lock body. So right here, see this green screw here? By moving this green screw from this location, and in this location, it can be used for an office function, classroom, or classroom security function, or classroom intruder function. When you move the screw down into the second location here, it can be used for a storeroom function, an exit-only function, or a closet function. And then the final location is for a 36 function, which is also a closet function. Let's take a quick look at the functions. So this is showing you an office function. An office function has a thumb turn on the inside and a cylinder on the outside. And if you're not aware of it, if you get rid of the thumb turn on an office function, it's technically now a classroom function. And if you happen to add another cylinder to the classroom function, it would technically be a classroom security function. So therefore, you could lock the outside lever from either the inside or the outside. Once the screw is moved into this new location here, it's going to make the outside lever rigid. So it can be used for a storeroom location, a storeroom or service room with no outside lever. It can be used for an exit-only door, so you don't want anyone coming in from the outside, or as a utility closet. This would be used on a very shallow closet. And our last option is the 36, which is an oddball closet function. So Sargent was able to take its 3 most popular functions, storeroom, office, and classroom, and put them all into one lock, with the bonus of having classroom intruder built into that same lock body. Next, we're going to take a look at some of their options. Okay. If you're not aware of it, in this industry, the standard door thickness is 1 3/4 inches. But if you want to use the Sargent mortise lock on a residential doors are normally 1 3/8 inches, and that would be specified with a 1 dash. If you're going to be using the mortise lock in a highly corrosive area, then we would recommend the 3 dash, which is going to specify stainless steel hubs. With Sargent, the standard strike that we use is a curved lip strike, which I'm showing you here. The 4 7/8 inch curved lip strike is our standard strike. But if you want to use a flat lip strike, you would specify 23 dash for a flat lip strike. And if you wanted an open back strike, that's going to be specified as OBS for open back strike. If you're looking for a wrought box strike to go behind the strike in the frame, that's going to be specified as WBS. As I mentioned a moment ago, the standard door thickness in this industry is 1 3/4 inches. So if you're ever putting it on a door that's more than 1 3/4 inches, you need to specify 31 dash and the additional door thickness. You have to tell us what size door it's going to be installed on. Wait, hold on, I forgot a couple more options there. Last 2 options on this page is 36 dash for security torque head screws, and 37 dash specifies spanner head screws. I know we've touched on this earlier, but once again, the option code is going to specify what you want written on the indicator. And the option code is going to specify whether it's inside, outside, or if it's going to go on both sides of the door, as we talked about. Okay. A couple more indicators we have. These are indicators we've had for some time. We have the 49 dash indicator. This is just a visual indicator, and it can also come with an emergency release on it also. Our 50 dash is considered our secure indicator. Touching on the electrified options, DX specifies deadbolt monitoring. LX will specify latch bolt monitoring. RX will give you the request exit switches. And TL is for electroluminescent touchpad underneath the WT escutcheon that you see there. If you're looking for a combination knob and lever on the Sargent mortise lock, you need to specify that, because if we used our standard spring that we use on the 8200 series mortise lock, it would be really hard to rotate the knobs. So if it's going to be used with a handle on, with a lever on the outside and a knob on the inside, you want to specify 68 dash. And if it's going to be with a lever handle on the inside and a knob on the outside, you want to specify 69 dash. If it's going to be used in an X-ray room or an area with a lot of radiation, you want to specify 74 dash. Sargent also offers handicap warnings. So we offer two types of handicap warnings: as milled slots on the back, on the inside of the lever handle, or as an abrasive coating. And you can have this specified for the inside of the door, outside of the door, or both sides of the door. And just for perfect clarification, there is no code out there that requires you to use this handicap warning. This is just a nice to have, but there are no codes that require this. Okay, continuing on, we mentioned the anti-vandal trim, and once again, the AV is specified as an option, and the lever handle on the inside of the door is specified as the rose and lever design. If you're looking for micro shield, which is our antimicrobial finish, you can get that. And if you're what I'm showing you here is our standard thumb turn. Nothing needs to be specified for our standard. But if you're looking for a thumb turn 40% larger, that's going to be specified with an LB option. And as I mentioned, we came out with these new thumb turns, okay, the T1, the T2, and the T3 thumb turns. And keep in mind, if you're going to have back plates, round back plates will be supplied with the standard and any of these thumb turns when it's going to be used with the L, the O, and the LN rose, or the roseless trim. Okay, so if it's going to be used, so you have round back plates if it's going to be used with any of these, and this will allow you to complete the suite of handles and pulls and door stops and such. If your hardware is ordered with square roses, then you will have a square back plate on it, and once again, you can have a whole suite of hardware with square back plates. If you have a dual radius on it, those are for the TO and the TR. And we also have them with a beveled edge. And these are going to be, once again, for the Coastal Series collection, and these will come with a beveled back plate. Next, we're going to take a quick look at how you price out the products. So right now, we're looking at the table of contents in the price book. Right down here, it's showing us our mortise lock, 78 and 8200 series mortise lock, and this is the pages we're located on. When you look at the Sargent mortise lock, one nice thing with Sargent is you only need these two pages. So when you're looking at the price book, it's always important that the options are on the left and the product is on the right-hand side. When you look at the options, we group both our mechanical options, our electromechanical options, and our keying options all into the same group of options. So right here, I put a red square around all these mechanical options, and these are all cylinder options. So keep in mind they are mixed, so you're going to have to look for the options that you're looking for. When it comes to the lever designs, what you're looking for is, when you're trying to determine the Sargent price, once you're in the correct 8200 series mortise lock, you want to look at the lever and rose design. So the lever and rose design is going to be shown at the top of the page. And what we're showing you here is that an O rose, an E rose, an L rose, or an LN rose can be used with any three of these levers and will all have the same price based on the finish and the function. The functions, for the most part, are broken up into the number of cylinders. So whether it's one cylinder, two cylinders with deadbolt, that type of thing is how the cylinders and the pricing is usually broken up into. From there, you need to consider the finish you're looking for. So 10BE, 26D, black suede powder coat, and white suede powder coat are all grouped in the same pricing. So anytime you're using the same lever with the same function, with any of these finishes, the price is going to be the same. All the other finishes are going to be based on a separate price category. So you need to know the lever design, the rose, and the finish to determine the basic product. So what I'm showing you down here, this was a little further down on the page. Here were the electrified locks. So if you needed an 8270 fail safe or an 8271 fail secure lock, it was just a little further down on the page. So next, we're going to figure out the base product for a DG1, which is a degree key system, with an extra large thumb turn with request exit, for an 8205, which is a classroom security, with an LN rose with an L lever, 26D for a right hand. And Sargent does make this quite easy. Let's take a look. So right here, we've gone to the page, and remember, the first thing you look for is the lever and the rose. So the rose and the lever. Since it's an LN rose with an L lever, in our rose category. So we're looking at the LN rose with the L lever, and that fits into the same grouping, this first category here. Once we found that we're on the right page based on the rose and the lever, now you need to consider the finish. Our finish is 26D, which means we're going to be in the first column here. Next thing you need to consider is the function. It's an 8205, which puts us into this first grouping. Our base price for this lock is going to be $1,023. All you need to do next is go to the other page and add in the options. Let's take a look. Okay, so 1023 is our base price. Looking at our options, our first option listed is DG1. DG1 has no upcharge. So brand new key system, patented until 2027 with no upcharge. Our next option is our extra large Thumbturn. This is going to have a $17 upcharge. And lastly is our request exit switch, and that's going to have an upcharge of $198 for a total price of $1,238. So you only need the 2 pages. Since the NAC lock is fairly new to a lot of you, I figured I would do a quick price run through on the NAC locks. Once again, you always have to find the lever. First, you have to find the correct page. So we need to go to the NAC lock. So when we go to the NAC locks, hey, there it is at the top of the page. It says NAC 8200. So the next thing you're going to look for is the rose and the lever. Here we're calling out an LN rose with an L lever. Same thing we just had. Hey, there is an LN rose with a L lever is in this first grouping. The finish we're looking for is the black suede powder coat, and that's going to be in the first column of the 2 columns. Next thing, we just have to consider our function, which is an NAC 82271. And NAC 271 is going to have a base price of $13.94. Once again, all you have to do is go to the page facing it for the options. DG3 is a UL 437 drill and pick resistant cylinder, and it's the highest security that we offer. So a DG3 cylinder is going to have an upcharge of $86 per cylinder. Since this is a single cylinder function, there's only 1 cylinder upcharge. IDP is the integrated door position switch, and the IDP is going to have a $104 upcharge for the integrated door position switch. And they want end of the line resistors, and that's going to be an RO3. And that's going to have an upcharge of $100. So this NAC lock is going to have a base price of $16.84. I figured we'd do one more really quick. So here we're looking at a DG2, which is a higher security cylinder with multiple locking points. T2, which is that special thumb turn with request to exit switch for an office function. But here we're specifying a studio collection lever and an E2 rose. So once again, the first thing we need to look for is what lever and rose we have. So our rose is going to be an E2 rose, which you see there on the right-hand side. The ND lever is part of the studio collection. So as you see here, the E2 is part of that first large selection of roses. Then this encompasses all the studio collection levers except for the Gramercy, Worcester Park, and Grant Park series. So now our price is going to be in this category. The finish that we're looking for is 26D, so that's once again going to put us in that same category. So our function we're looking for is an 05 function. So our base price for this product is going to be $10.51 will be our base price. Now we need to consider our options. Okay, we go to the option page. DG2 is for a patented cylinder with multiple locking points. That's going to have a $61 upcharge. T2, which is that new fancy thumb turn. Hey, there's no upcharge for that new fancy thumb turn. It's a nice option to have. Our next option is the request to exit switch. That's going to have a $192 upcharge. And so the grand total for this lock would be $1,310, $1,310. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run through, we got 5 minutes left. I'm going to run through some testing and above and beyond. This is pretty quickly. I think you'll find this interesting. As I mentioned to you in the beginning, the Sargent mortise locks are operational and security grade 1. One of the tests you have to be a security grade 1 is called the impact test. With the impact test, to be a grade 1, you have to be able to do grade 2 and grade 3 plus 2 blows of 150 foot-pounds of force. What's a foot-pound? A 1 pound weight being dropped the distance of 1 foot is 1 foot-pound. That impact is 1 foot-pound. And if you think about it, that's not very much, and only 2 impacts like that. And believe it or not, according to BHMA standards, you're allowed to put that big piece of styrofoam between the door and the impactor, which absorbs a lot of that. And that's why Sargents test their locks to a much higher standard, which is ASTM detention level standards. This thing weighs 166.5 pounds. It's swung into the door with 200 foot-pounds of force. And to be a level 1, you have to go 600 blows in 60 minutes. That's 1 blow every 6 seconds. And no longer do you have that big piece of styrofoam. You're hitting 1010 or 1020 cold roll steel 4 square inches. Let's take a look at this test. To be a level 1, you only have to go 600 blows. We just accomplished 900 impacts of 200 foot-pounds of force. Our latch bolt functions meet level 3, which means it's accomplished at least 200 impacts of 200 foot-pounds of force. As I said, our deadbolt functions with 900 blows, our latch bolt functions actually failed at 192 blows, and this is substantially stronger than what we had previously. When it comes to cycle testing, you have to be able to go at least 1 million cycles. And if you've never seen a cycle test, this is what a cycle test looks like. Every time the door is opened up, there's a 10-pound weight on the other side of the door, representing a bind on the door, a door closer on the door, which is wear and tear. So every time it lifts up, the door opens, it lifts a 10-pound weight. We have third-party verification that we've gone over 14 million cycles. I'm going to show you one last test, and we'll end it at that point. This is called the ASA ABLOY attack test for school security. Sorry, here we go. With this test, the lock is shot. Now this gentleman is given 4 minutes to try to get through the door. This is leave enough time for security or the cop to show up, police officers to show up. And it's supposed to look like an AK-47. And the Sargent 8200 series mortise lock passed that without any problems. I know the class ran a little long today, but thank you very much for your time and attention and sticking with me. We're going to open this up to see if anyone has any questions. If no one has any questions, I want to really thank you for your time and joining me for today's webinar. Keep in mind that we're offering webinars almost every day of the week at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So please join us for our other webinars. Have a great day, everyone. Stay healthy, and thank you very much for your time and consideration. It is appreciated.